Hey, let's talk about Gustavus Adolphus because I think he was pretty cool. So, to put it simply, Gustavus Adolphus the Great was a badass military genius who won some battles against the Holy Roman Empire, got himself a cool nickname, commissioned a ship that got knocked over by a gust of wind 10 minutes into its maiden voyage, and then he died in a cavalry charge. Bleh. Gustavus Adolphus, born 1594, ascended to the Swedish throne when he was just 16 years old. He was immediately put in a difficult position as his father, Charles IX, had left behind 3 foreign conflicts after his death, leaving his son to resolve them. So now Sweden was at war with Poland, Russia, and Denmark-Norway, which was one country at the time. And so Gustavus set about reforming the Swedish military into a force to be reckoned with. The first war to end was a Swedish defeat. Known as the Kalmar War, it ended in 1613 with the Peace of Kinnared, which forced Sweden to pay a huge amount of money to Denmark. The next war, with Russia, was started by Charles IX, who raced against Poland-Lithuania to place a Swedish duke on the Russian throne, by taking advantage of the Russian time of troubles, a period in Russian history marked by chaos and civil unrest. The attempt failed, however, as the Swedes were decisively defeated at the Battle of Klishino. However, the war's later stages saw far more success for the Swedes, as by 1617 the Peace of Stolbova was signed, which ceded the regions of Kexholm and Karelia to the Swedes, effectively locking the Russians out of the Baltic Sea for decades to come. The final war to end was the war with Poland, and since this one is a bit more complicated to explain, I'll do my best to summarize. So, King John III dies and is replaced by his son Sigismund, who is also the king of Poland-Lithuania. But Sigismund is a Catholic and Sweden is Protestant, so Charles IX, Gustavus' father, is like, yeah, we're gonna stay Protestant. So he starts a civil war and wins, starting a dynastic struggle between the two nations that would last multiple decades as the war would finally come to an end with the Truce of Altmark in 1629, which ceded the region of Livonia to the Swedes. It was also around this time that the famous ship, the Vasa, was built and launched. The actual reason it is famous, however, is a little bit of a letdown. Sweden had suffered many setbacks in the 1620s in terms of their navy. Storms had destroyed ships, and the Swedish navy lost some of their more powerful vessels to the Polish. So the king ordered for a new line of boats to be constructed, the first of which was the Vasa. The Vasa was a huge vessel, with 2 gun decks that allowed for the use of 64 heavy cannons. It was meant to be one of the greatest ships ever built, but it was a short-lived endeavor. On the 10th of August, 1628, the Vasa set sail on its maiden voyage, but before it made it to the open sea, a gust of wind heeled her to port, pushing the lower gun ports under the surface, allowing seawater to rush in and seal her fate. The catastrophe was seen by thousands of spectators and spies from Gustavus's allies and enemies. It was by all means an epic fail. However, Gustavus was not just a conqueror, he was also a reformer. He is famous for his military reforms, and most notably his experimentation with artillery barrels and calibers, eventually creating a lighter, more mobile gun with a high rate of fire, contrary to the huge and heavy imperial cannons. This also reduced the amount of horses and oxen needed to move the guns over long distances. His infantry reforms also cannot be left out, as he started deploying his troops in a more linear formation, which sacrificed some defense for efficiency and firepower. His military innovations would eventually earn him the title, the father of modern warfare. But while Gustavus was winning victories and developing his tactics in northern and eastern Europe, the mainland was in turmoil. The 30 Years' War, which started when Protestant Bohemians rose up and threw Catholic representatives out the window, in an event which became known as the Second Defenestration of Prague, defenestration being a fancy word for thrown out the window. Thus the 30 Years' War began, one of the most violent and horrifying conflicts in European history, with Sweden preparing to become a major player.